All right, everybody. I am here with Robert T. Toombs, goes by T, and we're ready to get going. So, hey, sir, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, Brian. Like I said, Robert Toombs, everybody calls me T. My wife Amber and I founded Mountain Readiness, which is a get together we have twice a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, um, focusing on all aspects of self reliance and preparedness. We don't want to just focus on one little spot. We don't want to focus on prepping. We don't want to just focus on bushcrafting or tactical or all that stuff, homesteading. It's all aspects all rolled into one, all at one spot.
Nice, nice. I'm excited to be going back there. Yeah, we were just talking about that before the show, and I'll be going back to what weekend is that in May?
It's going to be May, the first weekend of May, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what's awesome is with these instructors that we have paid intensives on the front and the back side of the event. So beforehand, we've got classes from Forward Observer. They're going to be doing intel classes. On the backside, we've got Pineland Resources that are doing tracking classes. It's Charlie Williams and Sue LaRue, of course, Sue LaRue of Tactical Rifleman. They're going to be doing the man tracking SAR 3-day class. We've got Troy's Gate, which is man, you want to talk about realistic training from the shoulders up. We train out on flat ranges, and that's awesome. But how do you train your mind for worst case scenarios? And Troy's Gate nails it to a T. We've got all these classes on the outside of it, and the 3-day event, you buy a ticket and you get all these classes are included with your event ticket. So it's 3 days of what we got 40.
So, what got you into your preparedness journey? I mean, I read your bio and everything. You're out on your own at 15 years
Pretty
old.
nuts, yeah.
You moved around
Pretty
a lot
wild.
as a kid. You grew up in an off-grid. You grew up in an off-grid home, no running water, none of that, man. That's
Right.
how'd you get in
It
the? I
was
guess that
wild.
kind of gets you in that mode, doesn't it?
Yeah, when you say how did you start your why and how did you start your preparedness life, it was because I had to. I didn't have an option. Like there wasn't no easy button, no on off switch. But at the same time, it's a crazy thing. It's like what would be the best way to put it? Being born in a nudist colony, right? Like you probably wouldn't know you was naked, right? So we didn't think anything of it as kids. It was normal to not have to pack buckets of water. It was normal to use a lantern. It was normal to
Yeah.
use a porta john or a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat on it. It was just a regular day in life. And then we had it so much better than all the other kids because every time we went to Wally World, it was like going to an amusement park. You had AC, you had lights, you had all this stuff. It was a great time. We got to interact with other people, but yeah, it was an interesting lifestyle, man. Hunting, fishing, living in tents and oh man, you out in the middle of nowhere, piping sunlight in. I mean, it was we stayed pretty primitive. My father, he kind of just went off grid before I was born. So right
Had he had
when
he
I was,
been like on grid doing like
oh
just the
yeah,
typical thing before that, and he just said, "I'm done."
California guy, worked in the electronics field. Big house, fast life, the whole thing, the nice cars, everything. And he just got tired of the city, so he left. In Missouri, where I was originally born and raised for a good majority of my younger days. When he got there, he met my mother, and he had just decided that he was done with the world. He was done with civilization, and I mean, we it was always 20 miles from the local town, 5 miles down a dirt road, a mile back into the woods. My father had this saying. It was like he would look at my mother and he would say, "I see smoke, Ma," which means somebody moved in too close to us. It was time to go,
Oh,
and
okay.
so we'd pack up and off to the next adventure we'd go.
Wow. That's wild, man. Well, like you said, that was normal for you, right?
That was
That was
normal. That was normal.
yes. And
I
so
remember I remember a time we were living in outside of Willow Springs, Missouri. We were living in this metal shed. It was like a shop, like a metal shop, dirt floor. We'd put some boards down. And my father, he had seen online. He was like, "Oh, I found this place outside of Red Wing, Minnesota." And the pamphlet, we didn't have internet at that time. There was no internet stuff. You went through pamphlets and magazines, and it
Right,
was
right.
it was yeah, it showed a picture of a little log cabin and a spring and trees and this woods. He's like, "This is where we're moving to. This is going to be the great homestead." So they're outside of Red Wing, Minnesota, and we packed up an F-100 pickup truck with everything we owned. We are a family of five, so that's father driving, me sitting next to him, my sister next to me, younger sister, my mother, and then we just crammed my brother down in the floorboard, because you could get away with that stuff at that time. It looked like the Clampets, cruising down the road,
Yeah,
stuff packed up. And an F-100, 3 speed on the column, there ain't a whole lot of room. I know Dad wore my knee out running that shifter up and down. So
right.
we packed up, we drove all the way to Minnesota, and we got there. It was like a field with a little drainage ditch. A little cabin was dilapidated, falling over. And I remember a guy, he rolls up on us. He's like, "Hey, you kids want to see? I found this deer. It's blind. You kids can come pet it. Come pet this blind deer." And he took off. And my father looked at my mom. And he's like, "Get in the truck. We're going back." So we drove all the way back
Oh
from.
wow.
That was the shortest stay we ever saw in any of our moves. Was we were there for 5 minutes, turn around and move right back. Some
Well, I
gypsy
mean,
blood, man.
I guess it taught you to be flexible, man, bouncing around and I
You
imagine
know,
did you have a pretty tight family then? Because
Most definitely. We
yeah,
us kids were homeschooled most of the time. We would move, we'd go to public school for a little short period of time, then we'd get homeschooled again. Just kind of back and forth, bounced in and out of society. But most of the time it was just us and the family, out in the middle of nowhere. Gardening. I know my mother, we packed around a wood burning cook stove. Oh, had the water tank on the side. That thing would be setting out underneath some tin. And God bless my mother. She could cook some of the best meals you've ever had on this wood burning stove. But it takes a special type of person, a special breed, to be able to deal with that environment. We'll put it that way. Is the best way I could put it.
yeah. Well, like you said, your dad had already moved off grid when he met her, right? And she
Right.
signed up for it.
He drug her
That's
along. He drug her along, and so it was the wilderness family, start to finish.
how's that? How does that affect your like how you view things today?
You know, there is no doubt that I have become spoiled over the years. Being able to flip switches on and off and turn faucetry, but in the back of my mind, it's a great feeling to know that if and when the time comes, which I think we're heading to darker days as we progress in the world,
Right.
that that assurance that you've done it before. I mean, it helps. It helps. There's no doubt that I think unfortunately there's a lot of people in the world today that when the cell phone doesn't work, like we experienced here just the other day, or the microwave doesn't kick on, I don't think people are going to deal with that very well, to be completely honest. And we really need to start training our bodies and our minds to prepare for this kind of stuff, because I mean, down to the electricity, the company that we deal with, they doubled their rates here
Yeah.
last year. Now they're saying they're doubling them again. I mean, the prices are going up so astronomical. I don't think anybody's going to be able to afford utilities, even if we still have them, as we keep progressing in the world.
So what you touched on it. What concerns you most right now? What's your big bugaboo that you're kind of thinking that
We
where we got
our
going?
whole yeah, Mountain Readiness. We started Mountain Readiness because we had been going to events, and the events were very closed-minded. And I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not calling anybody out, but a lot of times we go to these events and it was a book sale. It's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here's a PowerPoint. Here's my book. Buy this book." You would leave. You come home. You have a book. You're in the exact same spot you were before, except for you had a book now. Whoopee doo.
Yeah.
Um, and so often we see these different get-togethers where Nothing against homesteaders, man. You need to
Right.
be homesteading. You need to be growing food. You need to have that sustainability that we can't just live off MREs, right? Like two
Yeah.
weeks of that, I'm gonna stroke out. I'm too old. I can't handle that type of sodium in my life.
Your guts are going to
Um,
blow up at least.
yeah, I mean, it's that's short term. Chris Weatherman, Angry American. I'm a podcast with him, and we become good friends over the year. And he said, "Hey, you got 364 days worth of food. What about on 365? What do you do then?"
Yeah.
So homesteading is important, but if you're not willing to take up homestead defense, you're growing food for somebody else in the long run. You need all these skills. So we put this all together. So I think my biggest thing that people need to start looking into is we need to quit worrying about bug out bags, right? Bug out bags are important, but if you have the capabilities, you need to start looking at bugging in. You need to start building that resilience, that homestead defense, all these different areas that our ancestors was an everyday life for us that we've grown away from.
Right.
We've been spoiled. We've been indoctrinated that, this is the life that we're supposed to be living. Go to work, clock in at 8, sit there in front of at the square computer screen at my square desk in my square cubicle and go home and be happy with watching the boob tube. And, as long as I can cover the bills, I'm happy. We got to get out away from this. I look at all these prepper pages I'm on all over the time. And I saw this individual. She was saying, "Hey, I'm starting my preps," and she showed a box, and it had like some ho hos, Twinkies, some egg noodles, and some powdered milk. And while if that's all you can do, then I mean, do what you can do. But if that's all you can do, man, you are in a world of hurt here in the near future. You
Yeah.
know, I think people need to quit looking at worrying about a bug out bag and start worrying about water supply and sustainable food source. Look, people's fighting the HOAs all the time. Paul and Lori Vallone, Paul Vallone, Grassroots North Carolina, is at our event in May, and he actually wrote the book on Stand Your Ground and Castle Doctrine, Second Amendment. Him and Lori fought the HOAs and took the HOA over, and now he's wrote a book on how to do this, and because the HOA didn't want them to have chickens, look, if you have a piece of property, you have a backyard, get you some chickens, right? At least you got eggs coming in. It doesn't take, I mean, it's easy. It's easy to start out with, and start looking for that resiliency and that sustainability instead of focusing on how much flour and salt that I can pack into a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah. What are you going to do with that flour and salt? Yeah, of course you can make some bread if you have the ability and everything lines up. But I think a lot of what you're talking about sounds like it's what you can put the granola word on it, the holistic, but you're looking at like a 360-degree approach to preparedness, right? You need to look at everything.
Yes.
I think it's you mentioned the home defense, the home security on top of being a homesteader to some degree,
Yes.
right? No, I think
Right.
that's important.
It is, and our event, we actually have Daniel Salatin, Mike Dixon, we've got Billy Bond, Permapasture Farms, uh, Chantal Mullen Farm and Forge. We've got all these homesteaders who will be doing live hands-on processing. You can get in there with them, but we also have Carl Erickson and the entire tactical rifleman team who's teaching homestead defense. We have Jax Janega, Wildcard Wilderness, that's teaching tree medicine and wild edibles and plant walks, bush crafting. I went to a get together one time, and there was literally, I bet you, 20 instructors all teaching primitive snares, right? At one event. If your game plan is to run out into the woods and rub sticks together and build snares, you ain't gonna make it out that long. I don't care. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, that those are skills that worst case scenario are important. So you should be learning them, but that shouldn't be where you put all of your eggs in that one basket. So we want to see all those areas preparedness in one spot. You got to you got to be versatile. You got to have all these different areas, or you're going to fail. You're going to fail, and it's a sad thing because you remember we're old enough to remember. You remember New York City when Reagan, when the trash company
Oh,
went on strike.
the strike happened, right?
The strike, right?
Yeah.
3 days, New York was shut down by garbage, right? The streets were, you couldn't even drive through the city. And you're gonna bug out New York City, that place shut down with garbage, Um, think about if you had something widespread, solar flare, EMP, whatever it may be, what kind of mass chaos happens in these big cities. I think people need to start, man, when it comes down to it, if you can get out, get out. You should be looking. If all you got is your apartment in downtown Chicago, cool. But if you don't, you need to do everything you can to find something better.
Yeah, yesterday after because this we're recording this the day, I think today's February 23rd, the day after the AT&T outage happened, especially across the southeast here and stuff. And a lot of people calling, hey, what's happening? What do you know and all that. And I still don't know if they've really come up with an answer to what happened yet. Not that I've heard. And and I had some good conversations with people about it. And it's like, yeah, if all you got is to be able to hunker down in your house, but if you're living in a big metropolitan area, and I'm on the outside of one, I'm north of Austin and Williamson County. Thank goodness it's not Travis County because I'd be back in Los Angeles again. But at the same time, I have a neighbor 40 feet, 50 feet that way, and another house 50 feet the other way. It's still urban. It's going to be a mess if anything like that happens.
Right. And I hear people talk about, and I'm guilty of it as well. We all make excuses for training and preparing, right? Oh man, I was going to go to the gym today, but I got something else to do. I was going to go to the range and get some time out there on the range, but something life has happened. We're all guilty of that, but at the end of the day, we have to be. It looks like my dogs are losing their mind in the other room. I apologize for
That's
that.
all right.
Hey, look, you got to have some. There's my security system.
Part of my security system's alerting you, and you're ignoring it right now.
Yeah, luckily my wife's in there. She's got an M4, so we're solid.
Okay.
I'm gonna let her. If you hear gunshots, though, I'm gonna have to jump off for a couple minutes.
All right, we'll pause it.
Yeah, put the pause on that. But now it's with the event that we're doing. I think the biggest focus that we look for is networking. Mm-hmm. And in this day and age, your neighbor can be your best ally or your worst enemy, and just like you said, neighbor right around. Now we live 40 acres next to 67,000 acres of game land in the middle of northwestern North Carolina. I mean, I'm 5 miles off the parkway. So nice. I'm buried out here like a tick. Not everybody has that. I mean, God's been good to us. Building a network is imperative with what I believe we're going to be facing in this world. You can't do everything. The lone wolf thing doesn't work. It doesn't exist. It made a great movie. That's it. If you try to do this by yourself, you're going to probably die. I mean, there's maybe a handful of people in this world that can do it on their own, and you can never do it well on your own. Survivor barely surviving. I'm more about, I want to flourish, right? I want to do great. I want to just, as best as I can possibly be. And it takes a community to do that. It takes you can't just be the blacksmith and the homesteader and the garden guy and the cook. You can't do all these things. And that's why as civilizations, we come together and form these communities, because that's what it took to survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you're right. People talk about the whole Rambo thing, right? And what they don't know is the first blood, the Rambo movie and all that, when they talk about Rambo. What they don't know is that in the book, Colonel Troutman that comes and pulls Rambo out at the end, in the book, Colonel Troutman kills that dude at the end of the book. Rambo doesn't make it out.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, man, Rambo dies. I think he blasts him with a shotgun or something, but he kills him in the book. And so it goes back to your community, right? You need that. And And I like to tell people community doesn't have to be, hey, what do I have here with my neighbors or stuff? It'd be great if you have that. I'm living in,
Yeah.
in an area. I have some of the people who probably don't appreciate the Second Amendment in the neighborhood around me. So my level of
That
wanting to go
happens.
out and interact with them is not very big. Um, but at the same time, you can have a network. You may
Yes.
not have a place like you're fortunate enough to have out in the country and, doing your thing, but you might have a friend, or you can
Yeah.
develop a network of people that have something that say, hey, if something happens, can
Yes.
I go to, even though I live in the city, I think it's a 14-foot, uh, double axle utility trailer. And if something happens, I drop the ramp, I load up about 2 years worth of food and all my stuff in it. And, I'm down the road
Hit
and
the
I have
road.
plans to go to, people that are out in the country. Like, hey, I'll show up with extra. But I think that's an important thing to look at because, people always say that, well, I don't have that. You can
Right.
make it happen.
No, you can, and you have to open that mind up a little bit and venture outside your comfort zone. I mean, look, when it comes to preparedness, one of the toughest things about mountain readiness was trying to get a group of people who don't like people all in the same spot. You know, a bunch of instructors who would rather be out in the woods talking to the trees than to even look at another human being to come to the spot. And look, it's easy to get in that mindset. I'm no different. I could lock myself away here on the back 40 and I could go for months and never see civilization. But the reality is that we are made as humans to coincide with other human beings, right? And the whole concept of iron sharpens iron, right? We that's how we grow. That's how we learn. You get too close minded being locked away from the world, and I don't mean that in the way of we're not going there, but you have to have those human interactions. You
Yeah.
have to build those relationships. And let's be honest, if your neighbor sucks and he's not a person that you want to hang with, it'd be good to know that before worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like I just had a neighbor bought the property way over across the mountainside here. I went and introduced myself, ended up an awesome dude. But I also want to know if he's not so awesome
Right.
because that may be the guy that you need to keep an eye on. Who knows? Who knows? But knowing beforehand is way easier than trying to figure this out under duress.
Yeah. Well, and you can see you're progressing, right? Because if this would have been when you were a kid, it would have been, hey, ma, there's smoke. Time to
There's
move.
smoke. There's smoke. It was. My father to this day, my father, he was 42 years old when I was born, and I'm the oldest of three.
Okay.
And my father is going to be 88 this year, I think.
Oh, wow.
So he was born in 36. He was one of them Depression era guys, right?
Right.
Kids grew up with nothing. That was a family of nine, and just hardcore. One of them hardcore guys, and he's still to this day at 89 years old is perfectly content. I think he goes to town maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm.
He lives out of the garden, he hunts, he fishes, he splits his own firewood, burns wood, still living off grid. He does have a house now, at least. I'll give him that. I'm gonna applaud him for that. He got him a house. It's a small house, but he finally got one. But that's good, but he's by himself. Can't get him to leave. He lives out in Missouri. I'm like,
Right.
Father, just sell that, come here. He's like, nope. This is where I'll die. You'll find me one day out here by myself. I'll be dead. If you don't hear from me for a few weeks, I'm probably dead. I'm like, all right, as long as he's happy. But it doesn't really work for that long term survival aspect of things.
Now, I was reading that when you left home at 15, I guess at 17 or something like that, you worked with the Amish for a while, or?
I did. I did. So let's see, at 15, I had stuck around. I was working in two little towns. It was Bruno and Piatt, Arkansas, right between Mountain Home and Harrison. And that's where I started traveling around. We'd already lived in I don't know how many states. I mean, you name it: Louisiana, Idaho, Colorado, California. I mean, we were all over the place. And So at 17, a friend of mine lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There's a huge Amish community in that area. And so I moved there to be a driver for the Amish. So moved there and they can't have vehicles, but they can lease vehicles and you can drive them around. So at 17 I moved there and got a job with the Amish driving them around, and that's where I cut my teeth in the framing business. So started learning framing and roofing and general residential construction, and I spent probably 5 or 6 years with them, and then kind of went out on my own. But to this day, I'm still friends with quite a few of the Amish there. I was actually talking to a good friend of mine who's Amish just the other day. Now that Amish community, they actually have cell phones. The elders allow that. The
Sure.
Pennsylvania Dutch colonies are a little bit different, and it's funny because each community is guided by a set of elders, and the
Right.
elders of that particular part of the community, they decide what you get to do and what you don't get to do. But it's a great little the way they run their communities. It's a great system. It's there's not a lot of flaws to it, and they do very well for themselves.
Yeah, I spent some time up in Pennsylvania helping a buddy work on he had an old home up there that had some problems. So we were up there working, and he had a 3-story barn like that was on the side of a hill, and he needed to get the roof done. And I'm like, I ain't getting up on that roof. Not a chance of that happening. And it was big. It was up by Lewisburg, and so a big Amish community, a lot of Mennonite up
Oh
there.
yeah.
And so he had the Amish come in, and I'll tell you, I really like the Amish. They were
What a
fun. They were reliable. They did good work. They were down home, just good. They seem like just really good people.
you have the movie, The Witness, of course, and it makes the Amish look, and the Pennsylvania Dutch, they are a little bit more strict,
Yeah.
we'll say, but most of your Amish, even including the Pennsylvania Dutch, are not. I know plenty of Amish that'll fight you. Right? So they're not quite what they used to be many many moons ago. They're not even remotely like that. But what they do have that a lot of people don't is their community. The way they run their community is a perfect system. The boys, they go to school until about 13, 14 years old, and then they go to work. The girls around the same, and then they start doing work from the home. But they also, I tell you, one of the best hay baling crews I ever witnessed in my life was 3 Amish girls, and
Oh,
they
wow.
were running a horse drawn baler, and they baled hay faster than I could ever bale hay. I mean, they were swinging hay bales, but their community, the way they're set up, the kids, they go to work with the parents,
Mhm.
and you get an allowance, and everything is paid for you as a child all the way up until you are married. And once you
Okay.
are married, then you get a piece of property, a house, everything. You are completely set up as soon as you are married, and then you get a paycheck. And then that's your money then. But up until then, you contribute to the family. And you want to talk about prosperity.
Mhm.
Like they have that's generational wealth. I mean, the
Sure.
Amish, they are not broke by far because they pull together as family and community. If the barn burns down, they don't have insurance. The entire community comes together and they build that sucker in a day. And I've seen a barn raising in one day. They're slapping metal on this thing. It's amazing. 100 Amish just hanging off there like looks like a bunch of
Oh
monkeys
yeah.
in suspenders. Blow your mind, man. But
Yeah.
that's something that we need to get back to, because we try to do this lone wolf crap. I'm just going to do this by myself. I don't want to get to know my neighbor. I've seen Amish get mad at each other, but I've never seen Amish shun each other as far as within their community.
Yeah.
It is a perfect system, and that's something we need to start looking at with where we're going in this world.
Yeah, one day when we were up there and they were supposed to come in and work, they let us know like, hey, we can't make it in today. There was a death in their community. It was a baby had died. And so like, oh, okay. And later on that day, out in the, just out in the middle of the farm fields, there was an Amish hardware store. And it was great. Get everything. And then they have stuff that you just, you'd never see in most other places. So
Yeah.
we went out to the hardware store. As we were driving out there, we passed by where their cemetery was. And all the men from the community were out there digging that grave. And it's
Yes.
still, I still think about that to this day. It was like, talk about a sense of community and everybody coming together and rallying around that father and the mother.
Yeah.
My understanding was all the women were baking and doing all the stuff to get ready to have that funeral, and the whole community, like no one worked that day. Everybody took off for that day and maybe the
Yes.
next day to take care of what they needed to take care of the people in their community.
Oh yeah, and that's like I said, is there? I'm not saying wear suspenders. Look, I like buttons. I'm not really into clasps, right? My
Right.
good friend John, I won't mention his whole name, and just in case he's watching television at Mickey D's one morning, but it happens to catch the Mind for Survival podcast. But yeah, he that guy. Those people are just the salt of the earth,
Yeah.
and we really need, with the world this world is going, we need to start getting back to those type of basics and those type of foundation in life, because you're talking about these people grow their own food, they raise their own livestock, they go without electricity, hand pump wells, coming together in communities, building. They run their own sawmills. They have their own schools. You know, it makes me kind of feel ashamed of myself where I'm at in life, and I'm pretty self sufficient.
Right.
But no, that's where we need to start looking at. I think people need to really look at getting back to that place in life. That
Yeah.
community that I guess it really just doesn't exist anymore.
Are you set up pretty well for off-grid stuff? Grid goes down or anything like that?
Ah,
Or
we're looking at solar, and of course, solar is a two-edged sword. Maybe there's uh, if Chris Weatherman gets it, if he nails it from book one, and there's an EMP or something, all my solar grid would be all wiped out. But I'm thinking about it. But we have a spring that starts on the property,
okay.
runs out of the hill, runs through the property, feeds a half-acre pond that is stocked with fish. We have an artesian spring that was capped, and that is our well, and
Okay.
so it pumps water all the time without power. It's just pumping water out of an overflow. And we've actually struggled a lot, though. We've been here 9 years, and that was another reason we started Mountain Readiness, is we wanted a place that we could go to learn,
Mhm.
because we are by no means, at some awesome spot in the preparedness community. We've plenty of failures. I mean, our garden has had all kinds of issues. We've struggled with wildlife. Now we're learning about permaculture and companion planting, and what kind of plants to plant to keep deer out. There is hordes of deer around here, man. They will just wipe you out in seconds.
Yeah.
Um, Struggling with the soil of the hills of North Carolina. A lot of acidic red clay. But we're coming along. The fruit orchards in. We've got the chickens. We're getting ready to we got to get some goats running through the woods here and clearing. And then we've got sheep planned for the future. But, I think it doesn't, we're all on the same journey, right?
Mhm.
We're all on the same journey. It's just, we're just all at different spots on the road. So,
Yeah.
here we are, but we got to keep plugging away. Can't
Well,
give
it
up.
sounds exciting, man. I mean, obviously you always, our goal is to get prepared because, if something goes down and we have to live on our own and do all that stuff, we want to be there. So, we maintain as normal life as possible and,
Yes.
take care of your family and everything else. And at the same time, it, it's kind of fun, right? Like I've always enjoyed it. I enjoy the learning, like you're sitting there. I've never been much. I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles. I've never been much for planting and growing stuff, right? And so I'm giving that a shot this year in the back little garden here. And I'm looking at going, I don't know crap. Like I do not know crap about how to. And I'll go out when I go buy chives at the grocery store. I cut the roots off and I go toss them out in the front yard in little holes. And I got some chives, so I guess I can maybe grow some old chives. But at the same time, it's like you said, you're like, hey, you're trying to figure out the soil, what can grow in your area and everything like that. So it's kind of an adventure, but kind of with something on the back end of it that I need to figure this out.
Yeah. The Mountain Readiness event, we've got so much going on there. We've got, Billy Bond's Permapastures Farm. Billy is just an amazing guy, permaculture. Same thing with Chantal Mullen, Daniel Salatin, Mike Dixon. We're going to be hands-on processing chickens. We're going to be hands-on processing pig. We're going to be doing Billy's going to be teaching tactical food forests, the 7 layers of the forest, how to companion plant, and how when you put this together, get away from the tilling, no till concepts. I think there's one thing that stands true, and we as people, we always try to fight Mother Nature, and in the end, Mother Nature will always win, right?
Ain't gonna
You
beat
have
Mother
to
Nature.
work. I spent years of my life planting plants in perfect, pretty rows.
Yeah.
And that's not how Mother Nature works, right?
Yeah.
It's not how Mother Nature works. We got to have plants that handle the acidity in the soil next to the fruit trees. We got to have daffodils and herbs planted to keep the deer away from eating your food. There's all these little things that make the big difference, and that's why if you don't come to Mountain Readiness, go somewhere, do something, get out there and learn something, because we have lost our identity as a people. We've been indoctrinated in thinking that the white picket fence and the 30-year mortgage is how we were supposed to live. And it's not. I'm not dissing college. I'm not, I quit school at 14, high school dropout, zero college. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I am saying that there's something to be said for the trades. I took up trade schools. I'm an ASE certified heavy duty diesel mechanic. Been doing that for 26 years in transportation. I've got over 25 years in the construction business. I have 26 years, about the same, both wrenching and building houses. We got to focus more on these skills that we've been told are not important. We've been told that we need to go become look, doctors and lawyers, it's great professions, but we only need so many computer programmers, right?
Yeah.
If the angry American's right and this computer quits working, that computer programming ain't gonna help, it ain't gonna feed you no more. Okay. So we got to get back to those basics, and we got to start getting our hands dirty again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big proponent of the whole college education stuff. And I say that having a master's degree, I have a master's in business. It never really did much for me. I grew up, my dad's a mechanic. I grew up, he just shut down his diesel repair business. He did that. He started tearing cars apart when he was 13, and he's 82 now. He just shut down this year. He shut down his, he got tired of turning wrenches and had a mobile repair business. So I worked with him a bunch. And I have a bachelor's in security management, and I look back at it now, and it was fun. I enjoy writing papers and reading and learning about stuff, but it didn't really give me any practical skills, any practical knowledge of what we're talking about and how to handle life. I mean, the security management stuff, there were some classes that, taught me security procedures and how to do stuff that helped me when I was working overseas. But I think you getting your ASC certification, and bending nails for a bunch of years is probably in the long run a lot more useful than, what I did.
Come on, I tell you, it's we've been lied to, and it's all of our fault, right? It's all of our fault. We bought into the BS that's pumped, and we've been indoctrinated in. being homeschooled really was a plus for us kids. We didn't have electricity, so we didn't watch really much TV. There was, we played musical instruments, we played chess, we read books all the time, because that was all we had to do. We built a lot of things with our hands. We played outside and breathed fresh air, and so I can attribute a lot of where I went in life due to my upbringing with not being stuck in that system being programmed. And it's not anything against it. Look, there's good
Yeah.
schools, there's bad schools, there's good teachers, there's bad teachers, but at the end of the day, um, we got to quit my job in transportation that I ended my career as a transfer. I was a regional operations director for a huge mobile truck and trailer repair company.
Mhm.
And for 9 years, that's why I moved here to North Carolina to do this job. And the money was great. Don't get me wrong, but I literally sold my soul for that paycheck.
Yeah.
And a lot of this homestead that we moved here to do was put on the back burner, chasing pieces of paper with dead people on it. Right? That's what it come down to. I bought into the BS. Oh no, you can't. You got to make that money. You got to make that money. Look, people, it's paper with dead people printed on it with no other backing, and you sell your soul for it. We got to quit looking at what the world tells us we're supposed to have, and we need to start taking the blinders off and getting that 360 view. Hey, what's most important? It's home. It's family. It's sustainability. It's your community. It's your friends. It's your all building that inner circle. If you can build the inner circle,
Mhm.
and that outer circle, those people that may not be that core group, but are going to be people that you may lean on as time goes on. And we all got to make a paycheck, but there's something to be said for balance. You got to balance.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on. I think that's we lose a lot of that today. People just grind and they go after, like you said, they chase the dollar. I've been there, just like you. I was there. I was like, oh,
Same
let me get
deal.
this next promotion, man. I wanna be in charge. I want to keep doing this stuff, thinking that somewhere along the way I'd get there and it'd be like, this is great. It's the greatest thing ever. And it wasn't until I pulled myself out of all of that, that I'm like, no, this is the greatest thing ever. I don't make the money I used to for sure, and life's a little bit more of a struggle on a lot of things, but at the same time, I'm so much happier now. And I have a book coming out, and I outlined what I think are the goals of preparedness. Right, number one, to survive. If you don't survive, everything stops after that. Number two, to minimize your unwanted struggle. There's struggle we want. Whatever that is, you trying to figure out how to grow food in the acidic soil of North Carolina. That's a wanted struggle. Try to minimize our unwanted struggles though that come with job loss and illness and all that. And then
Yes.
when I was writing it, that was where I stopped. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then as I kept working on the book, I kept looking back. I go, but what's the point of those two? Like, what's the point of, okay, I survived and I've minimized my unwanted struggle, but what does that mean for me? And it's to live a good life, to live your best possible life. And you
Exactly.
don't get
Exactly.
there chasing the dollar. Maybe you think you do. I don't feel you do. It doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. Doesn't sound like it works for you. It doesn't sound like you don't get there in my world of chasing the dollar, chasing some, next higher rung in corporate America, where no matter how high you go, odds are you're going to still be below the CEO and the people that run the company and subject to their whims.
You can run yourself to death, man. You can run yourself to death. And people, here's something that I learned too, is that growing up very poor. I mean, we were poor. Not no pity for me, man. It made us tough. I'm not scared of it at all. But so success for me was always based on a monetary value,
Right.
right? How much more money I can make. My first job, 15 years old as a mason. I'm getting paid, $10 an hour. He fires the other two laborers. Now I'm making $12 an hour. I mean, I was rich. I was killing it. 15 years old, $12 an hour. I'm high on the hog. And so as I progressed through life, I always shot for a little more and a little more and a little more. And so this job here was a very large salary. But I found that the more you make, the more that you pay out in it to the big Uncle Sam, right?
Yeah.
And when you start rationing out, okay, I paid X amount to the federal government, and I paid this in the state. I could have just like had a regular job and had all this extra time on my hands,
Yeah.
right? And done probably better for myself. Another thing that I found is I have four children, two sons, two daughters. They're all 18 and older, two grandsons now, started
Congrats.
young in life. And my daughter and grandsons live just half hour from me, so I get to hang out with them all the time, and try to do things different as a young father. I beat my kids up and was rough on them and stuff, and now I get to, it's funny as we progress through life how with the kids you fight and you struggle, and then all of a sudden you got grandkids. You're like, man, this is so awesome having kids. I told my daughter the other day, she's like, how you doing, Dad? I said, hey, where's the boys at? And she's like, well, don't you want to see me? I was like, no, I don't want to see you. I'm here for the grandsons. But we I always, with four kids, I was like, oh, I got to work three jobs because the food bill's $500 a month. The reality of it is if I would have started raising a garden, I probably could have cut that big expense out, worked less, and
Working,
spent
yeah.
all that quality time building relationship with the children and doing something constructive like growing a garden, right? And these are things that I wish that I could go back and tell myself, back when I thought the almighty dollar was what I should be chasing down.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, people have to, well, I don't know if they have to. I think people should, and it's hard, but people need to redefine what success is. Cause, you get back to what you're mentioning about, college and everything else. Our society pushes that. And, it's really what success is what you determine as success, and that your barometer should be, do you feel like you're having a good life? Are you happy? Like I imagine if you could turn back the clock and do that, you spending the extra time working out in the garden and watching your kids pick up worms and all the other stuff out there would have been a much happier prospect for you
Most
that
definitely.
you'd be happy about.
100%, 100%. Um, and really, what success to me now in life, we're living on borrowed time, whether the world ends tomorrow or next year, or I just croak because I'm getting old.
Mhm.
Success as I get older is what legacy do I leave behind for my children and my grandchildren? What do I leave behind them? Because as growing up with the way we lived with, basically it was by the bootstraps, and we were building from the ground up from the time I was a child till now. So,
Mhm.
my success is going to be, what can I leave behind? What legacy can I leave behind for my kids and grandkids, so that they don't have a lot of the stresses and hardships that I have now. Doesn't mean I'm going to give it to them. I mean, I've been told my kids, I said, look, you ain't helping me over here on the homestead on the back 40. Like, I'll give this stuff away to the first homeless dude I see. Like, I'll sign it right over and not even think twice about it. But building that wealth for that generational wealth, whether it be in property or preps or gold or silver or whatever value you want to put on it, is nobody looks long term anymore. They're just focused on right here in front of me. What can I get? What can I have? Long term sustainability is what we need to be focusing on.
Well, and I think, from the sounds of it, you've given them long-term sustainability in, in your approach to life and how you've raised them, right? Like you've helped give them probably a mindset that they're resilient. And, I think I personally, I think that's probably one of the best legacies you could leave a person, right? Like,
Definitely.
that they're prepared and they're going to pass on good thoughts and good perspectives that help out the future generations.
And who knows? I don't think we have. I don't know. I don't believe that the world that we live in, as we know it, is going to be like this for much longer. And
Probably
I
not.
know people have been saying this for many moons,
Mhm.
but you know, we've been talking for, I remember 20 years ago talking about, well, if this happens, well, maybe this happens. Man, the ifs and the maybes are past tense now. Now it's the wins and the hows. I mean, we're at the point, with the borders and flooding in with all these fighting age males, and my cell phone's not working across the board. And I think the next phase that we're going to see here is going to be digital currency. And I think that's where the major turning point we're going to see in this United States. It's a sad thing. People in America, they look at these third world countries and they're like, "Oh my gosh, look how bad is Venezuela, and look at Ukraine, look how bad it is over there." And they think that it can't happen here. It's happening under our noses right now.
Yeah.
It's you can't print up money like it's going out of style and expect it to last forever, right?
Yeah. Well, and you can't look at, countries, Venezuela or other countries and say, oh, look at how corrupt they are. They're not telling the people the truth. And then you have inflation that's probably eight. I think, if the government stopped dialing it up so that way it made them look good, right? Dialing down the numbers that they tell us, and they actually gave us the raw numbers, it would be 18 to 20% right now or something along those lines. So when you have a government and, leadership that's lying to you and giving you propaganda nonstop, you are one of those countries, because they're trying to hide they wouldn't be hiding the fact if everything was, gumdrops and unicorn farts. That wouldn't be a thing.
Smoke and mirrors. I'm pretty sure that if we had the real numbers and we actually had the backbone that our ancestors had, that we would be tossing tea into the harbor by now. I mean, that's because that's what our ancestors did. And I think we're worse off than what they were as far as taxation, dollar for dollar.
Sure.
But we've been dumbed down. We've got the sheep here. People are happy to give half their check away and come home and watch their favorite show on the television and just veg out on the couch.
Idiocracy.
That's a sad, horrible place to be. It comes back right back, and this isn't a call to people to revolt and do stupid things. If you want to make a difference in the world, grow a garden. Yeah. Right? You don't like high prices on groceries? Grow your own groceries. That's how we did it 60 years ago. Get some chickens. Become self-sustainable. You remember, I don't even know if they do this anymore. I haven't even heard of it. Like a national gas out day where everybody was supposed to not buy gas to bring the prices of the gas down, right? Yeah, how'd that work?
Yeah, no one ever
did. Doesn't. It's crap. It doesn't work. It never does. It's just it's smoke and mirrors. So do something that actually does make a difference, because not only is it making a difference in not supporting maybe systems that are no good, but you actually know where your food's coming from. How important is that? Because I'll tell you, some of this food too, you start looking at the ingredients on this stuff, man. GMOs, genetically modified this. Oh, I went through the bread aisle the other day, and I bet you I looked at 50 different loaves of bread, and I only found one loaf that didn't say may contain bioengineered substances. I'm like, what in the world? Genetic, this GMO stuff is no wonder we're so sick.
Think about how wild it is too, man. I guess it's, and people listen to the show. I try to eat organic as much as possible. I've been doing that for a while now. And I do it because I started looking at it and like, what? And it's funny because usually it's our side of the political spectrum, or the conservative side, that usually craps on that stuff. Right. And I look at it and go, what sense? Why should I eat something that when I see GMO, I just think of alien, right? Manufactured, like plastic. Like, why don't I instead of just drinking water out of the plastic bottle, why don't I eat the whole thing? And I'm not saying I don't drink out of plastic bottles, but it eating organic is I'm trying to eat what's natural without a bunch of crap on it. I mean, you see the thing now with Bill Gates is putting this appeal on all the fruit. They're pushing this stuff, and it helps keep the fruit. Say, they say it keeps it more fresh.
Yeah,
but you're putting a chemical on it. Like that's
yes,
there's a problem there.
You're talking about Organapil.
Yeah,
Organapil. And what's crazy is you can Google Organapil, and the second thing down when you Google Organapil is the MSDS data sheet, right?
The chemical data sheet.
The chemical data sheet, it says 1% citric acid, 99% other. And in the left top corner is a big old check mark under pesticides. So not only are we genetically modifying a seed to grow, and remember, it's not only modified to grow in bad conditions, but they are implanting pesticides in the seed, i.e. Roundup, i.e. if you guys are familiar with Joel Salatin with Polyface Farms, you should probably watch Food Inc. With the whole Monsanto train wreck of the day. But not only are we producing a seed that is genetically modified, impregnated with pesticides, but then after we harvest it, we spray it down with straight pesticides called Organapil, and that's after spraying multiple times through the process of the plant growing as well. So we are not only we're eating pure pesticides. We quit eating a lot of stuff from the store for vegetables and fruits. And here a while back, my wife picked up a thing of salad. She washed this with vinegar and water like 4 or 5 times. We couldn't eat it. We couldn't eat it because the taste of chemicals were so bad. It's amazing how sensitive the body gets, right? It's even more amazing the what your body is capable of getting used to as far as bad eating and health. You get away from that stuff, man, you can taste it, you can smell it a mile away. It is amazing how much chemical and just bad stuff that is in our food currently.
Yeah, I go on a thing when I see people drink, when I have friends that drink soda. I'm kind of I guess it bugs me so much in a way. I'm a little bit of I'm probably a snob about it, and I should probably just shut my mouth sometimes. But I stopped drinking soda years ago, and I went to this like coffee, tea, and like ice water, and occasionally I'll have a little milk or something. Same. But anyhow, when I've gone back and like, well, let me try this Coke or try that. Like I take it, and where it used to be like had sweet and tasty, as soon as I get a little bit of it, all I taste are chemicals in it. And it's interesting how you say that. Like you get so used to it, when you get away from it, you're really quick to notice like, oh, like there's something not right about this.
I'll tell you, it's you same thing. I am a huge ice cream junkie, right? I'll admit it, man. I will buy a thing of like chocolate peanut butter ice cream or Moose Tracks or something. I eat the whole half gallon one setting. But we have been getting away from processed food, processed sugars. These past couple of years, we've really, and the older you get, I used to think that I knew something about health and fitness when I was in my 20s. In the gym every day. I mean, I was benching 350, top-notch shape. I'm like, I know something about health. As I get older, I realized I didn't know nothing about health. I was just young, right? Yeah. So as we get older, we realize that we weren't as smart as what we thought we were. So we have to start actually taking care of ourselves. But our eating, we've been pulling back from all this stuff. And here a while back, I told my wife, I was like, man, grab us a half gallon of ice cream, So we loaded up the bowls. We're sitting there on the couch, and I scarfed this down. I didn't even come up for air. And we go to bed. And I'm laying in bed, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, my heart is beating 100 miles a minute. I'm sweating. I feel like I'm about to stroke out. I thought something was wrong with me. I told my wife, I said, hey, I said, are you okay? She's like, I don't know. I'm like my heart's beating real fast, and it was just the sugar and the stuff that's in that stuff. We didn't even
Corn syrup,
realize
I
what it was
bet.
doing to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I notice now, like if I eat something or drink something that has corn syrup in it, because corn
Yeah.
syrup's in just about everything, I start getting phlegm building up my throat. It's an allergic reaction, right? My body's
It is.
reacting to this stuff, and so I just always, when I was out in LA, I would gripe at my old man about it, and because he yeah, he grew up back in the day. I remember as a kid, remember like they had TV dinners that were in the foil, and it was like, wow, look at this. This is science, right? Like this is the future. We can
Yeah.
just throw this thing in and you have
Throw
a
in
hungry
there.
man Salisbury steak and some corn that tastes like crud. And
Yeah.
that's how he was raised. He was raised on like, oh, all this stuff is marvelous. It's technology. And I talked to
Right.
him. I was just like, look at what's in there. You wouldn't go out and eat any of that stuff on its own because you're like, no, that's chemical. Like I'm not going to do it.
Oh, yeah. It's funny that the United States is only one of a couple countries who actually even allow GMOs in the country. Like
Yeah.
most countries in the entire world will not allow a genetically modified seed even into the country. It's illegal. You can't bring it in, you can't plant it, you can't use it. But 80% of our corn is GMO
Yeah.
um, garbage. Um, and it's funny seeing the ingredients of European countries and other countries versus ours. Like um, a let's a chicken place that's very very popular that has a chicken fillet sandwich. You look at the ingredients like monosodium glutamate chicken, sugar,
Yeah.
fructose. That there's like 50 ingredients, and then you see the same chicken sandwich over in Europe, and it says chicken.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
are we going wrong? Like if your chicken has 50 ingredients, you probably shouldn't eat it.
Probably not. Well, because it's not chicken then, right? Really, it's
It's not.
I did catch something. I just watched a little bit of the video the other day. I don't know if you ever watch Survival Lily. Her name is. She's it's a YouTube
Know the
channel and
name.
she's out of Europe. And I want to say that she was up there complaining, like she was running a video and she had the document in her hand or some copy of it that I want to say Europe's starting to open the door on that. She was upset. She's like,
Ah,
"Oh, here we go. Look at this." But yeah, I
it's there you
100%
have
agree
it.
with you. Go ahead and give us the info on the mountain readiness.
Yeah, so Mountain Readiness course last May was our first Mountain Readiness. We put that together. We ended up last May with man over 70 instructors. I think we had 60, 70 instructors, over 80 classes a day. I mean, we had over 500 people at our first event. Um, we had our fall gathering. We called it Fallout. No pun intended. We had to throw that in there. Big mushroom cloud. It's the
Yeah.
fall. It was a good time. And we had about 350 people at that one. And then, of course, this May 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be our second big spring get together. And right there at the Banhoy Family Campground in Harmony, North Carolina, right off I-77. And that is going to be, we're looking at probably 1,500 to 2,000 people. And we have got a great lineup of instructors. We have, of course, my good friend Chris Weatherman, the Angry American. We've got Carl Erickson, the entire tactical rifleman team. We've got Kayla Richardson from the Honeystead, Daniel Salatin, Mike Dixon, um, Paul and Lori Balone. We've got Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. They're going to be doing hands-on suturing out there. Of course, Doc Bones, Nurse Amy, they were just on Fox News again here just a few months ago, I believe. Great people there. God's Good Table is there. We're going to be doing hands-on sourdough bread making. We've got fermenting classes, intensives all the way through. I think who else we got out here? I've had to write them down. We've got so many. We got Black Armor Group. Byron Russell. He is one of Carl's guys from back in the day, doing drone and counter drone. So
It's a good
drone
one.
counter drone classes. Forward Observer, Intel guys. I'm sure you're familiar with Mike Shelby and those guys out
Yep.
there from Forward Observer. Great group. We've got Bone Spirits, good friend of mine, Texas Tony from the great state of Texas. of course, who will be doing a distillery class because in grid down end of the world stuff, alcohol has many useful purposes. So we're going to be doing a distilling class there. We've got Sularu from Tactor Ruffman and Charlie Williams with Pineland Resources doing man tracking classes. The list goes farm and forge, uh, coal forging, edible, tactical tree forest. I mean, I could go until I turn blue. It's going to be a slam packed 3 day event. If get off the couch, quit talking about, oh, I see on these groups, oh, is there anyone in my area that is prepping that I can talk to? Man, look, we're gonna have a couple thousand people here doing exactly what you're trying to do. Come hang out with us. You buy one ticket, and the ticket isn't expensive. It's like $90 for 3 days. There's camping on site. There's facilities on site. There's hotels 15 minutes down the road if you want to do that. There's RV hookups, a few still available. I think they've already rented all the Airbnbs out around the area for the event. But come together, network, learn. I mean, it's endless. You're not even going to be able to retain everything that you're going to learn here and build that community, right? Get together with people, exchange information, because this is where it happens. This is how you build those strong bonds with like-minded people.
Yeah, no, preparedness events like this, they are really a good time. It just, you go there and you don't meet a stranger. They're fun. I encourage people to go to them. What got you doing it? How'd you get started in it?
Well, as far as mountain readiness or just
Yeah,
preparedness?
no, mountain
Um,
readiness.
well, we like I said, we were going around to events and we wanted a place that I'm all about a one-stop shop. Um, I want to learn. I like variety, and I get bored. That's why I got 15 projects running all at the same time. So
Right.
if I'm just doing one thing for too long, I'm like I just lose patience with it. I like the to be able to go somewhere and it's like, hey, I'm gonna process this chicken, and then I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna learn how to do the loadout on my kit and set up my gun belt. And then here's a all women's AR-15 class that we're gonna put on. And then let's make some sourdough bread and let's learn about herb infused honey and tinctures and then go stitch do a hands-on suturing class. I mean, all that is happening and tons more at this one event, and that's how we got it started. We wanted a
Nice.
place that people could come together and experience all these different aspects of sustainability.
That's awesome, man. I assume that takes a lot of work to put that on.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be easy. It's not. I actually, my wife reminds me all the time. She's like, "Yeah, how easy is it?" We were at an event and I was super discouraged with what I'd seen, and I'd seen 40 primitive snare guys in a row, and then there was a guy that was doing primitive weapons, and he hit himself in the crotch with a pair of handmade nunchucks and fell down. I was like, there's got to be something better out there. And I told my wife, I said, Amber, we can do better than this. And I said, how hard can it be? And I'm gonna tell you, it's a little hard. It's a little hard to set up something down to figuring out how many porta johns you need for 2,000 people. I mean, there's a math equation for all this stuff, and there's a dollar amount attached to it as well. But
Yeah.
doesn't matter to us about the price. It's about building that resiliency and bringing people together. Man, it's worth it to us. We're going to keep doing this no matter what until the world ends, and even then, we may still keep doing it. We just feel that strongly about it. We feel that strongly about this, and we feel that this is what it takes. This is what people need to get themselves motivated and give them some form of direction in these tough times that we're facing ahead.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I'm looking forward to getting back there in early May and exciting. Where can people find you?
So mountainreadiness.com, www.mountainreadiness.com. That's Readiness. Facebook, Instagram. We're on YouTube. Don't hold the videos against me. I'm only so charismatic, right? Of course, we're on the Angry American podcast every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We stream those to our YouTube as well. I put on some videos on there. I just built a chicken coop. That was we named that the Chicks Carlton, is the chicken coop. High tech stuff. If you're looking for some direction to build an awesome chicken coop without spending a lot of money, check us out at Mountain Readiness, and it's actually I think it's titled the Chicks Carlton, if I remember correctly. So that's it. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcast. I'm not too good at all this tech stuff. That's about it. But look for that emblem right there. That's where you can find us.
That's awesome, man. No, everybody head out there, check it out. And like T says, get off the couch, get out and do something and make some plans. Go out and check out Mountain Readiness. You're going to get the amount of education, the amount of learning, the amount of interacting with other people who are very like-minded. You won't regret it. You'll have a great time doing it. So, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, T.
Hey, thanks for letting me come on here, Brian. It's been a pleasure, and we are looking forward to seeing you out there in May, brother.